If you think you belong to you, you do what you want to do with you. But if you belong to somebody else, come on somebody, because see, when we look at the word sacrifice and the word surrender, amen, when we look at, or should I say, when we look at the word commitment and we look at the word surrender, those are two different words. Because when I commit, that means that I'm in control. When I surrender, I have no more control. And the problem is, people, we trying to be committed to something that we're not willing to surrender for. Does it make any sense? Okay. Okay. Did you finish reading that? That's all in that one verse. So that means that God is not asking you for something that you don't have because he knows what he's given you. And it starts with what? A mindset. Okay. So now we found out the elements can be the bull, the ram, or the male bird, or the dog, or the young pigeon for the poor. And when it is given, it is supposed to be wholly consumed. Burnt up. Okay? All right. Now, let's go to Leviticus. Let's go to Leviticus, the 6th chapter, verses 8 through 13. We haven't abandoned our Romans 12 and 1. True. I don't want my heart here. It's a little warm. Thank you. You're so nice. So, it is hot. All right. Someone found it? 6, 8 through 13. Through 13. Okay. The fire is to be burning because when the sacrifices were already made, they had to, in this case, the burnt offering had to be totally consumed. It had to be totally consumed. Now, why is that important? Now, the question is this. If my mindset is not what it needs to be, which from a worship standpoint, how can I give an acceptable sacrifice? Okay? Second of all, not only if my mindset has to be given to give an acceptable sacrifice, but my mindset has to be what it needs to be to give God the best. And that's the other thing that we have to consider. He was not just asking for a bull or a ram. No, it had to be what? The best. Which means there's no spots that could be on it. It had to be the best. Somebody turn. Let's turn to Genesis 4, the 4th chapter, verses 4 and 5. This is talking about Cain and Abel. Genesis, the 4th chapter, verses 4 and 5. Somebody read it for us. What is it?
Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat.
The what? He brought the what?
Firstborn.
The firstborn. We can look at it as the firstborn, we can look at it as first fruits. But he gave the first, the best. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the Lord respected Abel and his offering.
Stop. Why did he respect him?
Because he gave the best.
because he gave him the best. Now the question that we have to constantly ask ourselves, are we giving God our best? Or are we giving God what's left over after we give everybody else our best? That's a question that we need to ask ourselves daily. Because if you have to give a daily sacrifice, God don't want what's left over. Right? I always say that people that work overtime for man, but when God asks for overtime, you ask him for too much. Doesn't make any sense. If you're sitting on a job and it says, okay, you've been working 12 hours. Okay, we need you to work 14, but we need you to work 4 more hours. Oh God, but okay, if Mr. Sammy said I'm supposed to do it, I'm going to do it. Sometimes we do it without grumbling, sometimes we do it with grumbling, but we do it anyway. But the problem with us and God sometimes is if we feel like we're in control, we feel like we can cut off when we want to. Does that make any sense? We feel like we can stop when we feel like it. I'm tired. I'm going to get a little rest. I ain't coming to church now. I'm going to get me some sleep. Right? I mean, we do it. We do it. I'm tired. Tired from what? I mean, I can see if if you're going to give your credit card people what they want, we need to give God what he asked for. Because I want to keep my credit good. But I think that the best credit you can have is with the Lord. Am I right? If God be for us, who can be against us? If God be against us, who in the world can be for us? So you want to get to the point where you at least please the Lord. Because if you're giving God your best, you better believe that God is not only going to supply all your needs, but he's going to give you the desires of your heart when you delight yourself in him. And sometimes the problem with this thing is we have not delighted ourselves in God because we don't understand what we call reciprocity. Reciprocity is that whatever you give to God, from whatever you give God to, he's going to give it back to you actually 100 times more. And I want to call it divine reciprocity. And people, you can only give divine reciprocity when you are intimate with the Lord and you have a relationship with the Lord and your mindset is what it needs to be with the Lord and your worship is where it's supposed to be with the Lord. Because if that is not there, and if that's not in place, come on, when your mind ain't right, you ain't going to give God the best. You just going to give God what you got. I got a couple of coins in my pocket. I got about 100 grand in the bank, but I got a couple of coins in my pocket, and I'm going to give God just whatever I got left over. And isn't it amazing? We give God what we have left over, but we want God's best. And when God don't give us our best, his best, then we start crying. The Lord don't love me. But truly, people, if we look at this thing closely, if justification had to plead our case, we all would be in trouble. Because if we had to be blessed in accordance to what we've done, I don't know about you, but I walk out the door. Because I know it ain't going to be much in my bank account. My heavenly bank account. So people, we have to be willing to give God our best. Don't he deserve it? Okay, keep reading. Genesis 5.
But he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell.
Now, first of all, Cain, why are you going to get upset? When God asked you for something, you didn't give it. But you know why Cain got upset? Because Cain looked at Abel. Think about it. Sometimes we call them haters. We get all hating on somebody else because God is blessing them. And we don't know what they gave up. We don't know what they sacrificed for the Lord. And God is blessing them right now on top of blessing them. And we sitting there hating on them because guess what? God ain't fair. Well, if God really was fair, he said, okay, you want me to be fair? Let's be fair. I give you according to what you've given me. And then we'll say, well, God, you still ain't fair because you ain't give me what you gave them. Well, you didn't give me what they gave me. And people, again, I keep on saying this thing. We are not just talking about money. But we are talking about money. Because I ain't going to let you out of that one either. Because that's the first thing we say. All they want is your money. Well, first of all, if God is asking you for something, what does the day got to do with it? And that's something you need to ask yourself. Because see, sometimes, some things people are cop-outs. We like to put the blame on somebody else so we don't have to do what we're supposed to do. But guess what? When you go home, it's just you. When you're blessed or you're not blessed, it's you. And God will bless you according to what you were willing to give. Not according to what you were willing to hold back.